Hello, homies. Guess what? The Homeopathy Hangout podcast is celebrating its 5th birthday this August 2026, which is a humongous milestone. And by sheer coincidence, we have also hit our 1 millionth download at the same time. So it is absolutely mind blowing to be celebrating these two incredible milestones together. How incredible is it that thousands of people around the world tune in every week to learn about homeopathy? And we have a new episode dropping every single week for 5 years straight without missing a beat. And now we have this treasure trove of over 470 episodes for everybody around the world to enjoy. Obviously, a milestone like this is never reached in isolation, so please allow me a moment to thank some of the people who have supported me along the way. First of all, my amazing husband Yaku and our incredible children Josh and Tuli. My work chews up way more family time than I'd ever like to admit, but the truth is that I couldn't do any of this without the incredible support and love of my husband and our children. And I feel like the luckiest person in the world to get to do life with these three amazing people. Secondly, my editor, Margie Tiempo, and my VA, Chin Adorius. So Margie has been editing this podcast for over 4 years, and last year we got to meet up in person in Bali, which was so lovely. Her husband, Ruel, came along as well, and he also helps with the editing. So Margie and Ruel, thank you so much for your amazing work on the show. Big thank you also to my VA, Chin Adorius. So Chin creates the snippets that we use for social media to advertise our new episodes, and she emails our guests to let them know when their show has released. And Chin's been working with me for close to 5 years now, and she was the one who put me in touch with Margie all those years ago. So I just want to say thank you so much to Margie, Ruel, and Chin. I really appreciate what you do on the show. I also want to thank my amazing clinic, dispensary, and admin team, Paloma, Viv, Sarah, and Helena, who not only pick the orders for our worldwide shipping, but also picks me up when the workload feels a bit too much. Also to my team of homeopaths, Elaine, Sarah, Nicole, Ritu, Yaguda, and Kelly, thank you for being my support and my sounding board. And of course, we wouldn't have a show at all if it wasn't for our incredible podcast guests. To every one of you who have taken the time over the past 5 years to be a guest on my show, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with our worldwide audience to help spread the love of homeopathy. I also want to thank the generous souls who have financially contributed to this show, which has helped me continue to provide this as a free resource for everyone. So firstly, Marcus Fernandez, founder and principal of the Center for Homeopathic Education. Our regular listeners will know that Marcus has been looking after my podcast baby the past 2 months so I could have a break from recording. Thank you so much, Marcus, for immediately saying yes without any hesitation when I asked for your help. You're a truly special human being with a heart of gold. Marcus and CHE has also financially been a sponsor of the show, which has helped me out in a time when I was ready to give up the podcast due to the financial strain. I also want to say a big thank you to Melissa Kupsch, who has also in the past been a generous donator of the podcast, which has allowed us to continue providing this as a free resource for all of you. I haven't done a donation thank you at the start of my episodes for a while because this year we've had a grand total of 12 donations, of which 8 was in February, and they were thanks to Ambika Waters and her amazing Illumination Remedy ladies. The other 4 donations came through in March and June this year. So, to the 12 incredible people who have donated to the show this year, I want to give each of you an incredibly special thank you from my heart. It means so much to have your support. So thank you to Ambika Waters, Vivian Stratton, Janine Fuller, Nina Garrett, Joe Douglas from the Natural Therapy Clinic, Deborah Olenev, Kim Sullivan, Esther Boris, Teresa Raphael, Diane Yamamoto, Shulan May, and Emily McAteer. I also want to say a humongous thank you to the 6 people who have a monthly donation subscription to the show. You 6 have an extra special place in my heart. Please know that your ongoing support is seen and felt with every fiber of my being. So thank you so much to Manu Mystery, Emily McAteer, Christy Downey, Johan Fitt, Sandra Stevens, and Sarah Cotman. I wish I could fully express how much your support means to me. A few years ago, we used the Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon sites to offer listeners the chance to donate to the show. However, those platforms were taking quite a bit in commissions. So about 2 years ago, my husband created a direct link on my website for donations. So if you'd like to donate to my show and help me continue to provide this free resource, please visit eugeniekruger.com and click the Donate to Homeopathy Hangout podcast in the top left corner. And of course, I wouldn't be doing this for 5 years if there was nobody listening. So to you, dear listeners, A humongous thank you for tuning in every week and sharing the show with your family and friends. To everyone who's taken a moment to give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting platform, thank you. It really does go a long way to help the algorithm get the show out there to others looking for this information. And if you haven't yet had a moment to leave us a 5-star review or subscribed or followed on socials or on YouTube or Rumble, it'd be wonderful if you can do so. So in the course of 5 years and 470 episodes, there has been countless highlights for me, from guests who have challenged my thinking, which helped me grow and expand, to making new friends, hi Sarah, Rita and Jenny, to the fangirl moments of interviewing homeopaths who I really admire, to getting a couple of free signed homeopathy books sent to me from upcoming guests. However, there's one particular highlight that really stands out for me in this podcasting journey. And that was getting the opportunity to open a branch of the Centre for Homeopathic Education in Australia and New Zealand, thanks to the founder and principal of CHE, Marcus Fernandez. With the incredible support from the entire CHE team in the UK, Susie, Sian, Jeanette, Natasha, Tash, Jane, John, Nina, Kate, Yasmin, Emma and Matthias, our first ever cohort at CHE Australia and New Zealand have now finished year 1 and they're about to embark on year 2. The past year has been a steep learning curve for me, and it's also been endlessly fulfilling to get to share my years of clinical experience, as well as all the knowledge I've gained from interviewing hundreds of homeopaths on the podcast and passing that on to our students, who are the next generation of homeopaths. So if you live in Australia or New Zealand and would like to study to become a homeopath with me and the Centre for Homeopathic Education, then visit chehomeopathy.com.au. Our intakes start the 1st of February every year, and we're also currently taking on patients for our low-cost student clinic. So you can sign up for that through our website as well. And while I have you here, and in case you didn't know, my dispensary sells a wide range of remedies and kits that we ship to several countries around the world. So visit eugeniekruger.com. I also have a team of homeopaths who would love to help you in your healing journey, and you can book them through my website as well. And if you live in Australia, I have a free Facebook group where my team offers free acute advice. You can find the details on how to join on my website as well. And of course, we also have our Homeopathy Hangout podcast Facebook group, where you can pop any questions you may have about any of our episodes or suggestions you might have for future guests. Just search for Homeopathy Hangout podcast on Facebook. Of course, the tricky thing with taking time to thank people who helped you get where you are is that it opens up a gap to forget some names by accident. So everyone who has been part of the Homeopathy Hangout podcast, thank you with all my heart. On Saturday, the 12th of September, we're going to have a podcast birthday party here in Perth at a really lovely outdoor venue that's very family friendly. So if you're in Perth and you'd like to join us, email info@eugeniekruger.com and we'll send you the venue details. So with that, here's to another 5 years of the Homeopathy Hangout podcast. Thank you, homies, for listening.
If you ask anybody, you go out on the street, do you ever get stressed or upset? Yes. What do you think is causing that? The weather, my financial situation, the government. Damn it. People will come up with 101 things. Nobody will say, it's my own thinking. It's thought in the moment. It's just thought that's arising in the moment that's been brought to life by this invisible energy of consciousness. And that creates my felt experience. Nobody's going to say that because it's invisible to us. So what the principles are describing is something that's happening behind the scenes of our experience, but it helps us to account for our experience. It helps us to make sense of it. And when people you just have to get the slightest glimpse of this. When people get a glimpse of it, it does something for them. They go like, oh yeah, that's how it works. It puts us in alignment with the truth of how it actually works. And when we see how it works, we realize that we've been participating in our own suffering without realizing it, not deliberately, innocently. It's what we call the innocent misuse of the gift of thought. And as soon as you start to see that you've been essentially creating your own suffering innocently, guess what happens? It stops making sense.
And if you just think about this at the moment, and you think about trauma, trauma comes from something that you can't reconcile or process in your life. That is the very essence of trauma. And in crystals themselves, they're showing the way through the Earth Mother, of the way that trauma is healed by the formation of something completely new. It gives birth to something. And it's the process of change is going on with us all the time. But when we come up against something that's an enormous barrier for us, and we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to process it in a normal way, yeah, or in a fluid way. Essentially, we're stuck in trauma. Trauma can come from anything. It can come from, a war. It can come from a pandemic. It can come from losing somebody you love. It can come from not having your dreams fulfilled. It's something you can't get over. And the way through is a crystalline way. It's a transmutative way.
And if it's the right remedy, within 10 to 15 minutes max, if it's the correct remedy, you're going to see the actual color of the iris of those people's eyes. They will no longer be muddy looking. And that is the biggest tell there ever was. And the second thing that happened, and it was a little slower, is that you could see from the neck up, you could see the color changing on the person's face, and the yellow or the sallowness going away, and you would start seeing this nice, rosy, healthy looking skin again. Okay. And with people of different colors, again, you could see the change. So just doing that, I would know that I had chosen the correct one. Sometimes I didn't and nothing happened. And I'm going, okay, which one do you want me to do? And so he would always say, do this one. So I would, again, visualize it. And it was always a 30C. You never needed anything over 30C. 30C is gentle and mild. It's not going to cause an aggravation in most people, okay? And I would send it to the person. And sure enough, 5-10 minutes later, here you start seeing the green iris of the person's eyes that you didn't even know what color it was when they walked in. And you could see this incredible flush of health just coming up, and it was so beautiful.
Light is the physical manifestation of consciousness. So what we see here is the physical manifestation of consciousness being transformed into matter and energy and transformed into life. So to me, this is one of the most beautiful things to consider or contemplate, is how we take for granted this miraculous process that happens in every moment in plants. So, what we understand through relativity and quantum mechanics is that space-time and matter are patterns. And they're patterns created by consciousness, created through light. Light is the container, if you like, of space-time and matter. There's nothing that can go faster than light. And light is the instrument by which everything is, the interplay of all of the elements that come into existence can happen. So everything in existence is a pattern in consciousness through light. And what the mitochondria pick up, because they're on that dimension, because they are manifestations right on that dimension, and that's their playground, is those patterns. So, Hahnemann was very clear. Our medicine is immaterial. A homeopathic remedy, that required process of potentization, is a process designed to extract all of the material product from the pattern of consciousness that creates it.
Now, in our conventional medicine, we see the immune system as two different parts. We just see the human immune system, of course, first of all. And then this human immune system, we divide into two parts. The one is the so-called the innate immune system, which we are born with. It's our first defense. It's like fever, inflammation, but broadband. It's not very specific. And it doesn't learn. It does the same thing all the time. That's the idea of the conventional medicine. So the innate immune system is what we're born with. It doesn't change throughout our life. And it's the first line of defense. And then there is the acquired immune system. And this is the one with the antibodies that we focus on. It's the one that learns. It's one that knows we've been in contact with this pathogen in the conventional medicine. And now the next time we come into contact with this pathogen, we are prepared.
And so I looked at all the remedies in the chart for cough during teething. That's all I had. Mm. And I went through every single remedy in excruciating detail. Of course, I'd given 5 of the remedies in that little rubric already. So I didn't need to give those. And other remedies were easy to cross off because they didn't fit any of his symptoms. This is for homeopaths and home prescribers. Nearly always it means we need to give a remedy we don't know yet. Maybe a small remedy, or could be a polycrest, a bigger remedy, but we don't know it yet. How are we going to know it? How do you find out what you need to know? So for me, what I do is I step back from knowing into a place of not knowing.
In bronchial asthma and in allergic rhinitis and in atopic dermatitis, homeopathy has outstanding results, and the treatment is not expensive at all. It's maybe time-consuming for the physician to establish the remedy, but it is non-expensive. And sometimes there is something that is like magic. You use a remedy like sulfur, which was used by Hahnemann 200 years ago, and it still acts better than normal medicine that we have nowadays.
The very first case that I give on the organ remedies is a guy with heart disease who came in when I just started practicing in the early 90s. And he was depressed and he had weak heart muscle and he was fit all his life. And the medics were going, okay, we've got to put you on heart tablets. You're going to be on this for the rest of your life now. And he was strongly averse to taking any type of allopathic medication. So he came to me for treatment, analysed the case, thought, okay, got depression, got heart disease, various other symptoms, give you an abridged version. So this is aurum metallicum. This fits perfectly because I built the hierarchy on mental emotionals, physical generals, physical particulars. So cardiac symptoms was a local particular symptom. And aurum did nothing at all. And I tried different potencies, centesimals, LMs, and then by the time of the third visit, I think he's not going to stick around for long. Out of desperation, I said back to my Burnett work and thought, okay, Crataegus, just as a spacer, whilst I'd work on the case and come up with a better similimum. And when he came back, his heart was going good. The muscle had improved. He could oxygenate better, and he could go back to doing his gardening and his walking and exercising. And so his depression disappeared. And I realized at that point, I turned the case upside down.
Parents came to my office with children. Something was the matter with their child. And I found that homeopathy cured them very nicely, very well, but keeping them okay. There were always relapses, and I couldn't figure out why that was. And the answer to that question only came when my own son, he was a boy of 4 years old, but he was like an old man with wrinkles in his forehead and very serious, and he couldn't play with his toys with himself, with other children. So he was very serious, claiming me all day, mama, mama, mama. And most of all, he was unhappy, very unhappy, it seemed to me. And that was my biggest concern. And then one evening I thought, well, maybe I just write down his whole history of complaints and the history of his life. So when I finished the story and I read it back, it hit me in the face, because all of a sudden I realized this is all about me. I have become cold in my life. I am oldish, serious, and not playful anymore.
When the immune system goes haywire, they start attacking themselves. The body doesn't know that. If you look at it from a physiological perspective, they call it molecular mimicry. The body misinterprets the thyroid for gluten, and it tries to digest that gluten protein. i.e. it's trying to digest the thyroid. Well, that's not beneficial for us because our thyroid production is being reduced. And then you get the hypothyroid symptoms and the autoimmunity continues. And if it continues for too long, well, now you're not going to have enough substrate in the thyroid gland to produce your thyroid hormones. So it's very important that you get that autoimmunity to be quelled, to be crushed. But the symptomatology and the manifestation of why that thyroid autoimmunity is occurring is because you're going haywire. You've had that stress, you've had that trauma, you're not being supported, your cortisol levels are through the roof because you've got the stress.
So when you've got that client in front of you, how compromised is their liver? And more especially, how compromised are their kidneys? Because the liver is the main organ dealing with toxicity. So it's recycling all that all that nasty metal, doesn't really know what to do with it. It squirts it out through the gallbladder, it excretes through the gallbladder. And then, probably behind most gallstones and gallbladder pathology is heavy metal toxicity. The body doesn't really excrete it efficiently. We need what are called chelators to get it out of the system. So it tends to circulate in the system. And when it's done that for long enough, it will start to affect other filters like the kidneys. And once it's affected the kidneys, you've got a very fragile patient.
There's a question I ask when I work with groups is, what do you have to do to prove you're worthy of what you say you want? And the answer is nothing. You don't have to do anything to prove you're worthy of what you say you want. We are worthy because we exist. And when you hold that awareness in your consciousness, life flows very easily and very beautifully. And it's just allowing that grace to come through, not getting caught in the projections of other people. And they are flying, projections are flying like guided missiles. Find your core, know who you are, stand strong, trust yourself, trust your creator, trust your medicine, and stay in community. This is something I've really learned over COVID. Community is everything. And God bless you with your website. It's fantastic what you're doing. And thank you. Thank you for letting me have a forum for sharing my ideas.
Lots of research being done in London and many other places of people who had absolutely depressions that hasn't responded to anything. They've given them a single dose of psilocybin and depression is gone. But they found that after a few months, the depression comes back again. So if you have given a remedy that the person has shifted out or they've taken a psychedelic now legal in Australia and that has taken it out, that's not the healing. You can change your life only by changing your life. So to take the remedy and to make it go away, that's the magical thinking. If that's all you've achieved, I have to say I would be disappointed. Like I said with my patient with the breast cancer, if all that happens here is that your tumor disappears, I'd be disappointed. It's, have you changed? Have you brought your life to another level here? Have you realigned yourself with your purpose? If we're only focusing on the symptoms, I don't think that we've really done all the work.
So I start my own company with greenhouses, and we get children, and the second child after the MMR vaccination get a meningitis directly after the MMR. So she was hospitalized because she was incontinent. And I was treated by a homeopath because of my epilepsy. Was very severe, more than 3 times in a week, a grand mal. So terrible. I got lots of medications, and when I was 16, my mother says, now we go to a homeopath. And this homeopath helps me to cure from epilepsy. And when I was in the hospital with my child, in consciousness, in coma, and the doctor says, after 3 days, the brain is so damaged, it will never be okay. We need to let her sleep. And I said, no way. I take it out of the bed. Go to the homeopath. And there was a patient in the homeopath, but the patient says, this is more important. So we had a talk. He gives the remedy, Dioscorea valosa. And within 3 hours, she wakes up. And with 3 days, she was playing. And now she is a healthy woman of 39 years. No, 42 years. And then I thought, I need to become a homeopath. So I go to school, and within 2 years, one of the teachers says, you need to start your practice because you are so involved. So I start my practice. And in 1993, I thought, the results are amazing, but I'm not satisfied because people come back. And then I thought, there needs something, what I'm missing. And I start to read the organon. And the third time I read the organon again, I thought we need to cure the obstacles before you can help the patients. And then I thought, yes, there are so much obstacles. If you look back in Hahnemann's time, there was not so much allopathic intervention. They use only arsenicum, they use mercury slowly on. And that, or there was plant poisoning and things. And Hahnemann he was not really the finder. Hippocrates was the finder of homeopathy. But he found out when you don't cure the obstacles, then you can't heal a patient.
In 2018, one patient came back. He had suffered from very severe allergy symptoms. I've treated him for 8 years. Nothing would really have helped him. It was going up and down. And all of a sudden, he came back 2 years later, but not because of throat problems, but because of knee issues. And I wonder, what about your allergies? And he said, well, somehow no more problem with my asthma, somehow it's gone. I don't know why. I don't understand. And then I looked it up and I saw, okay, what was the last remedy that I've given him? I've given him Staphysagra, I've given him Natrium, I've given him everything. I've given him a phosphorus, all. But somehow nothing much would really have done. But the last remedy that I'd given him was Streptococcus 200C. And I had called him 3 weeks later and had asked him, so how are you now? How are you feeling? And he said, well, somehow now I'm fine. No, this was in 2016. I have no more allergy symptoms. No, somehow something has subsided. And since then, for 2 years, he didn't call me again. He was no longer there. So I thought, okay, this is really amazing. Something is happening. This man can be helped with just only 1 dose or 3 days that he had taken the 200C. And now 2 years later, the whole story of the allergy is gone. What has happened there? So I thought this must be a remedy. This must be very good for allergies. Yeah. And so I started all my allergy patients and I started to give it to this. I have many allergic patients with in the spring, hay fever. Mm. Yeah. And so I started to giving it to more and more people. And they came back and they said, well, the action is, how was the remedy? And they said, oh, very positive. I feel so nicely. I feel well. I feel somehow I feel more at ease. I feel more relaxed. I feel more comfortable. I'm more, I feel lighter somehow. I feel life is easier for me now. I feel just better and things are opening up and everything is easy. Some got more flus and so other things happening. I didn't understand it at that point, but that's when I started to really give it to a lot of people.
This is under the subject of obstacles to cure. And what happens is you spend so many years learning your homeopathic theory and then you get out there in practice and you spend a good deal of time repertorizing your case and choosing the most accurate remedy you can possibly do, and you give the remedy and it fails. Mm-hmm. And that's so demoralizing for the practitioner after you've spent all that time and intensity working out the case and you give the remedy and it fails. So we have to take into account as much as we can, what are the obstacles to cure in this patient? What are the things that are going to prevent the remedy doing its job? And one of those is the copper and zinc imbalances that you're talking about. So in patients who have high levels of copper and low levels of zinc, so copper and zinc are antagonists. If one is high, the other one is low. Think of it like a seesaw. Perhaps if I get a pen, since we're doing a video. So if you think of a seesaw, if zinc is here, if copper is high, your zinc's going to be low. So that's the wrong balance. You always want to have your zinc higher than your copper. In extreme cases of this copper-zinc imbalance, we have people who have what's called pyroluria or pyrrole disorder, which is the inability of the body to store its metabolize and absorb its zinc and B6 properly. And so copper is not checked, like it jumps off the seesaw and flies into the air. Okay, so that's zinc-copper imbalance has to be corrected for the normal enzyme functions to work properly. So even if you've got the right remedy and it's provoking the right response, all the connections can't be made. Like your body is like an electrical system. The nervous system is an electrical system. So there's gaps in the synapses unless that zinc-copper balance is there.
Last night I was at a cacao ceremony and I met a lady there that I worked at a festival this year in July at the yoga picnic here in Ireland and was doing healing sessions there, massage and energy alchemy work. And she stumbled across me and I was actually leaving my bell tent to go for lunch and we started chatting and she just burst into tears and she said, I really need your help. I said, okay, come on, let's go into the tent. and just got her onto the table and started to do some work on her, working in her energy field to start with. And then I said, okay, we need to do some somatic work. There's some, your body is in trauma. Let's do a massage, some healing, some tuning forks. We'll see what comes up. So I worked on her, and she had this massive, massive release, like sobbing the whole time, really, so there's all this trauma is coming up. So part of the session was really about helping her to stabilize so that she could process the trauma, and then also leave my space so that she's in a place where she can be, rather than going back out into the world still feeling how she was feeling. It was so full on. It was really, really powerful. And she left the Bell tent and went off out into the festival, and I didn't get her phone number. I didn't even know what her name was, And last night I met her at the cacao ceremony, and she said, whatever you did that day, I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, it changed my life. Oh. And you hear those, I was so humbled by it. You hear those things from people and you just think, wow, they have put the hard work in. She came to me, she activated that healing herself. I just facilitated what needed to come through and what needed to move in her. And she just said she came home, she's made all these changes in her life, and she's a different person from it.
The Banerjee Clinic is a very different clinic, because I've not seen a clinic like this in wherever I've gone. It's got a charitable aspect to it. With the Banerjee Clinic, we get about 700 to 800 patients a day. And the top level, there are 3 levels to the clinic. The top level is a completely charitable wing. So we have people coming in from everywhere, and the consultations are free. And we have about 5 to 6 doctors sitting up there. They're all trained in the Banerjee protocols. And in the second wing, it's a wing that, of course, you can pay for consultation, and very nominal fee. When my grandfather made this clinic, he actually wanted to keep in mind that he wanted this place to be like a safe haven for the common man of India. He wanted to reach out to as many people possible. And he would always tell me that I'm not where I am because of the rich men. I'm here because of the poor men of my country. It really says something to you when you're said these kind of things when you're a certain age, and you realize what a responsibility you have that you need to carry on. So we've kept it just like that. We still get about 700 to 800 patients. We treat them all, and we never turn anyone away.
And this is one of the reasons why understanding the symbolic world of the patient is really important, and understanding and being able to understand their dreams, or to actually utilize their dreams, because so much is suppressed. Not only so much is lost, but so much is suppressed. And we suppress everything these days. If we don't use drugs, we're doing it by suppressing ourselves, And it amazes me as I do my own work and I listen to my dreams and everything, how much of who I really am has been suppressed by me, And also the unique situation of women these days too, moving from being totally within a certain box or container to striking out on our own. And I think that's really important, because I think women are really, the woman's point of view, the feminine point of view, or eros, as we talk about in Jungian psychology, is really, really important, because eros is the connective principle. It's the thing that connects people together, that connects everything together, that sees the whole picture. Whereas the male, and I'm talking about an archetypal format, the male is the separatio, the one that separates things into pieces. And we need both. We absolutely need both. But because we have a history of things being separated so much logos, so much rational thinking, that we need the wisdom of Eros and the connective principle of Eros. We are not separate. We are not separate from the external energies of the archetypes. Archetypes are basically preconditions, primordial energies, and they're invisible. They're potential. And then when they are stimulated, and they make up what Jung called the collective unconscious. I think I have to back up a little bit and talk about the collective unconscious, if you don't mind, is that this is another big difference in Jungian psychology. Jung was a psychiatrist. He was working in a mental hospital. This was in his early years. And he discovered that these people who were locked away, who knew nothing about what was going on in the world, were having dreams that were mythological motifs, that were things that they knew nothing about. And he observed this. Like Kahneman, he was very big in observing, being the unprejudiced observer. I'm sure Jung would have used that word if the same thing. So he observed this and he continued to observe it. And through observing it, he not only helped people heal, but he realized that our psyche is not just contained within the individual. It's actually collective. And what makes up that collective unconscious are these energies, these primordial potentials, invisible, and they are unlimited. There are unlimited number of them. And then when they are stimulated, we experience the archetypes, human beings experience the archetypes through symbols. So then they become archetypal symbols, but those are not the archetypes themselves. The archetypes themselves are these invisible energy forms. I think this whole thing is much more like physics, it's kind of amazing. It's all, this energy field that is described in quantum physics. So that's what archetypes are. Now, even though there are a very, unlimited number of archetypes, there are archetypes that show up again and again in clinical practice. And the archetype of the shadow, the dual archetype of the anima and animus, which I sort of touched on a little bit, that we all have this masculine, feminine polarity, and the archetype of the mother, which we see a lot in homeopathic practice, because the archetype of the mother has a lot to do with autoimmune diseases, all kinds of problems in the physical body, addictions, eating disorders, all of those things are the mother archetype. But the first archetype that is really important to look at as a homeopath and as an individual is the archetype of the shadow. And so what is the archetype of the shadow? The archetype of the shadow is all of the things that we don't want to see in ourselves, all the negativity, all of that. Because the shadow naturally is hidden and people don't want to show it to you, don't think that they're going to tell you about the shadow in your practice necessarily, right? So one of the big problems, I think if homeopath got anything from my book and listening to this podcast, is be careful not to prescribe on what we call the mask or the persona of the individual. That's what covers over the shadow.
I thought, about giving up homeopathy. And at that point in time, the vaccine rollout had started in the fall of 2021, and everybody's clamoring to get it. And then everybody was sick for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I'm just like, go away. I don't even want to help you anymore. Like, stop. Try some silence and just go, what is going on? What in humanity? And I just saw too, like the infertility rates and, there's sexual conversion things happening, and everybody's biome was so distorted. And still, I hadn't got to the next set of work yet. I had to come to a deep place in compassion for myself and even for humanity, because I had really lost it for humanity by that time. And then when I said, okay, well, I had some revelation, and then I was like, okay, I am going back. and I'm going to be a homeopath. So how am I going to do that? And what am I going to do? And within about 24 hours, 7 new homeoprophylaxis programs dropped in my head about how we can start working with fertility, how we can start working with moms and pregnancies, how to clear miasmatic history, to clear out sexually transmitted diseases, to fix up the biome, like a homeoprophylaxis program that has every different biome one, because antibiotics have destroyed us.
I had a patient this year, bless her. She was down to eating 2 foods. I think for it was over the period of the last 5 years, she was eating chicken breast and lettuce. She was being sent for the most full-on testings, all of that. Her whole body was in shutdown. She just couldn't function. So 2 foods she was down to: homeopathic cipolinum and silica. She messaged me, she's like, I cannot believe it. I've opened up my range of foods, but all of these things have changed. And so it was redundant. Thousands of dollars doesn't need to be spent on the tests when we get to the true root of it. And now she, of course, is signed up to be a 2-year homeopathic qualified practitioner, because she's like, I need to bring this to the world because I wish that I had known. And that's where most of us come from. Homeopathy saves us from something that we desperately needed, and then we can't help but share it with the world. So yes, I do think that homeopathy is the one. It is the most important at the top there. Yes, I'm a snob and I'm biased, but I really do see that. It's the core, the true root medicine, all of the functional medicine in the world. It's great, but it doesn't come close to what homeopathy can do.
So what we did is to integrate homeopathy into the public health research. So we did outcome-based research in homeopathy in mobile and rural clinics. We did other research in different types of traditional medicine, traditional bone setters and midwives. And then we actually did other kinds of public health research and fitted it into what they call the National Community Health Strategy to try and develop community health in developing countries, that is, taking healthcare to the community. So we sponsored 36 villages with community health workers. We did education there in permaculture and healthcare and malaria prevention. And we ran 18 mobile homeopathy clinics and 4 fixed clinics all around this one area of Kenya. And that went on for 5 years. It was a hellish operation because I was educational director of the college, and we had so many challenges, and then running the EU project and trying to ensure that we actually achieved our goal, which we finally did. So I just want to put Africa on the map because I feel like it is such a place, and there's so much potential there, and there's so much heart there. And I want to see how homeopathy will evolve.
We're playing this infinite game, the game of life. It's not this finite thing. It's something that's infinite. We're not in it for the quick fix. So we're not training our students at the Prometheus Homeopathic Institute to chase results. We're training them to cultivate relationships, first with themselves and then with their patients, with the remedy, to respect the remedy. That's how I got here, right? To respect the remedy. And this is where I was going. I was going to laying it on the altar, ALTAR, to be altered, so that when you finish approving, have a drumming circle or a rattle or a big fire pit and literally or figuratively keep throwing what is unfinished into it. And let it be a vehicle that awakens me. Let it be a vehicle that helps me to continue to grow, and so on and so forth. And so we want truth seekers and people who are willing to find their way, who are willing to stumble and fumble and make mistakes and work with growth mindset and not know the answer, and who are willing to put aside the idea that I can practice homeopathy like an allopath, giving this for that and that for this, without seeing the gestalt or understanding that this is about helping a person into individuation, into their dance of emergence.
We're not here to scare our clients. We're here to give them all the information and then let them make that decision. Very informed. It's so empowering. And let me tell you, when a parent is, because normally they come from the doctors saying, you need to do this, or, these terrible things will happen. And then they come to see us to get that second viewpoint, which I love that there's so many. And I'm saying younger because and look, I'm 42, so younger could be like 30, you know what I mean? But I'm saying younger parents. But I'm seeing a lot younger parents, even in their 20s now, coming in and saying, we want to know our options. We don't even know what homeopathy is. But after what happened a few years ago, we're a little scarred and untrusting. And so now we want to know our options. So I always just say, just give them their options and let them walk away. And let me tell you, parents feel so good. And even though obviously as a homeopath, my dream is for everyone to homeopathically immunize and be covered, but that's not realistic. The same way not everyone's going to take, Bryonia and Nux vomica for a headache. They want Panadol and Nurofen, so they're just, these different methods are just alternatives to each other. And they're interesting consults, the immunization discussions, and, particularly prescribing and offering homeoprophylaxis, you need to be very confident in your knowledge on homeopathic immunization and on vaccination and on the diseases that they are treating and preventing. You need to be versed on it. Don't, buy my dad's book, by the way, if you want to. I should do a plug for dad here.
It's like you're
Buy
reading
his
my mind.
homeoprophylaxis book.
I literally just wrote on my notes to make sure that I tell you to plug your dad's book, which maybe we should just do that now while we're here.
Oh, yes. Dad's book is, oh God, what it's called. Vaccination and Homeoprophylaxis, a review of the risk and alternatives.
Is this the new one that's come out?
Website. He's bringing out the revised one. So hopefully he'll be having a session with you sometime soon to go over all the fabulous new data, which is so exciting, and new methods and working. So that's really exciting. So that's going to be coming out on Amazon, I think, soon. So hopefully that will coincide with an interview with, I've just dobbed him in now.
Yeah,
with the
good.
interview with yourself. And so he can talk about that. But yes, he's still got all his other books. And he does have the Vaccine Damaged Children book. That is a book as well. And that's a really, if you believe that, if you feel that your child is vaccine damaged, get that book and just read about it, see your homeopath and see what they can do to help, because there's a lot there.
We have the most amazing team, and like just this last week, in 2 days, they did 80 patients, 2 of them by themselves. I wasn't there because I'm away at the moment. And I mean, that just the legacy of that is people who've got chronic conditions that have not shifted because the current system is just not addressing it. And we have a real crisis in Eswatini with drugs. There just aren't any drugs in the hospitals and the clinics. So I know what we're doing is an amazing support. It's for the rural communities, especially because they don't have access to help. And I think that's the legacy of the young homeopaths that I'm working with will continue. We have I work with an amazing team. That's going to carry on. If we are able to sustain it, if we manage to keep the funding coming, and it'll persist, people will get help. And that's the point, is that we can help people with a safe and affordable form of medicine.
Trituration has been a thing in homeopathy for the last maybe 30-ish years. So basically, in a very brief summary, the trituration movement from 1 to 4 hours of trituration, so 1 to 4 hours of grinding and scraping with a mortar and pestle, you get a remedy that kind of goes to the individual level. 5 to 8 hours, you get one that's a bit more collective, focusing on like your family, your culture, your country, your species, that kind of thing. 9 to 12, you start to get a remedy that has a resonance to the issues of the entire planet. 13 to 16, the solar system. 17 to 20, the galaxy. 21 to 24, roughly the universe as we define it in English. 25 to 28, you'd get something that's a bit more multiversal. 29 to 32, you'd get this higher level above multiversal that's eternal, but still corruptible. It's still got problems. And then 33 to 36, you get levels that are eternal and incorruptible.
I made a kit for the beautiful organizers of Unleashing Homeopathy because I really wanted these shamanistic Arctic remedies to go to the world. So the initiative of this came that I wanted to pay respects because I come from up north. I'm not a Sami person, but I wanted to give respect to our indigenous people, the Sami. Not all the remedies are from up north, but for example, 2 of the recent ones, one that made everybody cry, which is the Arctic sea water. You have to be tough ass. So I really wanted to honor these women and also the whales of the Arctic Sea, because the remedy is taken from Pygeia, which is a space by the Russian border up north in Norway. It's a holy place for the Sami people, and it is a place where the whales go to die. I thought that this aquamarina because I had used it in my practice so much for letting go of a relationship and for people who love the oceans, who benefit from sea remedies. I said, we need a cold Arctic sea remedy. And it was huge on grief also. It's like it just washes away everything you don't need anymore. And then there is this kind of melancholy when you're looking for the ultimate soul partner to live your life happily ever after, and you don't find that person. What a sadness comes with it.
When you practice homeopathy, you are practicing in complete consistency with the microbiome. So you don't have to change anything to be compatible with it. You're already doing it. And you don't have to get off of this track and learn about the microbiome. You don't. You're already using the most microbiome compatible system of therapy there is on the planet. Okay, and that would be the final word. You're already doing what you need to do. Just keep learning how to do homeopathy better. Just keep learning, to expand what you do, because we all have things we don't know how to treat or we can't treat, and mostly it's because we just need that experience.
I was sitting next to this Greek woman, a tiny room, not as big as my office, with 20 people. Wow. Sitting waiting to see their homeopaths. And this woman started to speak to me in Greek, which at that time I didn't speak at all, not even a word. And she had great English. And she said, "Did you come here from America to be treated?" And I said, "No, I'm an American doctor. I'm coming here to study homeopathy." And she got totally, and she said, "Well, let me tell you about me." And she'd had horrible migraine headaches. She'd been bedridden for 20 years. And she told me all about it. She came to the clinic a month ago. She hadn't had a headache since the second day, and she was up and doing things and holding her grandchildren and things she'd never done for 20 years. And while she's talking, the woman next to her sort of elbows her and says, "Oh, who's this?" And I hear her answer something, "American doctor, blah, blah, blah," in Greek. And then pretty soon the entire room, every person in the room was standing in a semicircle around me, getting this woman to interpret and tell me this one had had rheumatoid arthritis, and that one had had multiple sclerosis, and that one had, agoraphobia, and each one of them completely cured.
It took me a very long time, which was really a good thing for me and for my development. And at the end of 7.5 years, nobody believed that color could heal. When the spirit is open, grace happens and healing happens. That's what I found with the color remedies. Keep an open mind to the realm of possibilities. Don't get stuck in dogma. If you can accept homeopathy for what it is, why would you limit the realm of possibilities? It's a fabulous medicine. It can only do good, only do good. And in the right hands, it can do miracles. And I do know that. And you don't have to be bombastic about it. Just really trust the remedy. Trust the remedy to work. And that's something that I do say to my students. They want to do meditations and affirmations and all this stuff with their remedy. Just let the remedy work. Trust that the remedy itself will work. We don't have to do other things to prove that it's okay.
When he was about 11 months old, my mother-in-law begged me to get him his next round of vaccines. And I was like, he doesn't need them. We haven't done them. He's doing fine. He's finally well. And she was like, "Please, I'm worried he's going to die. I lived through polio." And she was terrified. So I was like, "Look, fine." I wasn't worried. I thought, fine, I'll take him. And I took him, and he was given another round of Hep B, but also with the DTaP. And within hours had vomiting and diarrhea coming out of both ends, like pouring out. We had to rush him to hospital, and basically they gave him a 50% chance of living. And from that moment forward, he was constantly sick. Ear infections, throat infections, just constantly unwell, stomach bugs. And a neighbor of ours said, "You know what you need? You should go see this homeopath I know." And that was the same day that I'd been to see my pediatrician, who himself had a Down syndrome child, and had said to me, "Look, Kim, I can keep giving you antibiotics," but he said, "It's not going to fix things." He said, "What you need is somebody to strengthen his immune system. We take my son to a naturopath in the city, but you just want some sort of natural healing technique because medicine doesn't do that, right? That's what natural healing does." And then my neighbor said, "Oh, go see this homeopath, Jane Shiketti, who lived less than a mile away from my house. So I took Jerry to Jane. Jane gave him Veratrem and he stopped getting sick. And that was astonishing to me.
To be a professional homeopath, I think you have to be involved in a proving. Having done a proving, a proper full-blown proving, separates the girl from the woman in homeopathy, because you are going to experience something you've never seen before, which is, it's a human-made epidemic, not like a mandemic that I mentioned before, but provings are totally parallel to epidemics, because you give a remedy to a group of people and then you have to look at it as if one person. But the whole process is so full of educational issues for homeopath, understanding you never have the opportunity in clinic to see that giving one remedy affects 30 different people, each one in a different way. Who gets better, who gets worse, how long does it last? All this is fascinating to see.
I also like with students to try and encourage them not to feel fear. I think when we put fear in with a remedy, we're more likely to get an aggravation. I leave my patients with the message, you're going to love this remedy. I think this is going to be a brilliant remedy for you. And I say that because I truly believe it, and that I don't see aggravations very often. And aggravations are only your body sorting out. I say, if you're tidying a room, you're pulling things out, sometimes the room's going to look worse for a while until you've sorted it and made it how you want it. And that's what an aggravation is. So I don't worry about them either. Just let them work through and encourage people that it's okay. This is part of the process. So I don't have anxiety when I prescribe, and therefore I think that's part of it. I rarely see aggravation. So I always give it with a positive, you're going to love this remedy.
When you study homeopathy, we become a homeopath. It's something that comes from within us, and the changes that happen within us. It's not just like learning a subject like history or philosophy or whatever. Yes, you were going to learn facts, but something about homeopathy that you transform within. And there's something that is very alive with homeopathy. And the more that you learn it, as I mentioned before, the more that you get obsessed. I remember when I first heard about homeopathy, it was like, if this is true, how come the whole world doesn't know about it? I was so shocked that I was only young. I thought I knew it all at 20, but obviously didn't. But that really, really struck me. I just could not believe that people didn't know about it. And even to this day, people don't know what homeopathy is. You can go outside and ask 10 people what is homeopathy. They haven't a clue. And I always find like we have this amazing system of this amazing healing modality that most people don't know. However, there is millions of people that do use homeopathy and use it very successfully in their everyday lives.